Thursday, April 28th, and masks are off, right? I think. I hope. I don't know. But for April 28th, 2022, yes, masks off for travel. So, yeah, I'm a little casual today. And why is that? Because we're going to be talking about travel tips. And this is part one of part two series. So, everybody, welcome to Get Real with Jill. Thank you so much for joining. And again, today is Thursday, April 22nd. So, hopefully, I'm live, you can hear me, and we're ready to go. So, as you know, I actually start with kind of a get real scenario. All right, you guys, let's get real. First, let's get real. So I'm making sure you guys can hear me, okay? Oh no, it's April 28th. So yeah, not April 27th. So thank you. So obviously you can hear me. All right, you guys. So for Thursday, April 28th, let's get real with Jill. And here's what the get real scenario is to start us off. All right, how many of you, and it's probably happening today, are in a parking lot, are at a gas station, at the grocery store, maybe getting your kids from school, and there are like masks everywhere on the ground, in the grass, in the bark? What do? Do you go and pick up the mask and throw it in the garbage because we really shouldn't have litter, or do you just step over it? Well, I'm going to tell you, I totally step over it. There is no way on this earth that I'm going to pick up somebody's mask. And I'm sorry that they're there. And I don't know how masks get dropped. I see them everywhere all the time. So anyway, I'm curious to know, what do you do when you see a mask on the ground? Actually, and if you do wear a mask, that's fine, but don't put it on the dining table either. Or if you're at a restaurant, don't put it in the table. Just put it in your purse in the pocket. All right, so let's get started. So actually, this is part one of part two, travel tips. So whether you're flying international or domestic, definitely listen up. But before I get started, I want to tell you, when I would travel, so many of the times I would be like, okay, oh my gosh, what mask do I have to wear? To not have to think about a mask is super exciting because I like fashion. And so my masks have to go with what I'm doing. So the mask that I did throw off, that was like a polka dot mask. That would be like, oh my gosh, I think I'll take my mom to lunch. That's a cute mask. But then if I'm going to show property, because as you know, I am a realtor, then I would do my Let's Make Deals in Heels mask. But then if I'm going to go out with my girlfriends, like on a Friday night, go dancing, thanks to my girlfriend Petey, who makes all my masks, she gave me the sparkly mask. She made that for me. But then on Sunday, when I go to church, I have to have a mask for church, right? So then I'd wear my Faith, Hope, and Love mask. But then, so there was a lot to this mask thing. But then when I would go driving around, I would do a lot of Home Depot errands for anybody. I would wear this mask. Yep, says I'm single. I don't know, do you think it's okay that I still wear this mask around? Or should I not? All right, I'll get rid of it. Get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, because I don't have to worry about a mask anymore. But do I? All right, so let's get into this. So my son Kyle and I, we are actually going to Israel in May for 10 days. And this has actually been an experience. So you don't know what you don't know, and I sure don't know what I didn't know about traveling international. And a lot of this stuff also is domestic too. So I want to let you know that you can talk to probably 3 people today and say, what are the TSA guidelines? Do we have to wear a mask? Do we have to be vaccinated? Can we fly international vaccinated, non-vaccinated? What do we do? And you know what? You're going to get from 3 people probably 10 different answers. So I found some great resources for you that are easy just to go to and get your questions answered. And the things that I'm going to talk about are really for today, Thursday, April 28th. So, you know what? When I think about it, it's like appraisers. You can have one house and 3 appraisers, and you're going to get 3 different answers. Remember that for people who are looking to buy or sell, because it's subjective. Okay, it's somebody's opinion. But anyway, so let's get started. So, first of all, in order to travel, and the first part, we're going to talk about passports, IDs, whether you need to be vaccinated, not vaccinated, where do you get a COVID test? You need to have a COVID test. And then we're going to segue into what I have coming up for next week, and it's about how to pack smart, how to pack light. And that's what I'm going to try and do. So that's going to be a fun one coming up next week. But let's start with the passport. Here's a tip that I did not know. I'm sure, well, everybody that travels international and even in Mexico, you do need a passport these days. So here's one thing that I did not know that I wanted to share with you. We are going through a tour company, so I'm expecting them to be the experts. I'm going to be the follower. Let me know what I need to do and I'll get it done. So if you have to make sure that your passport, and this is for international travel, could be for domestic, but I know it's for international, is valid for 6 months after your trip. So my passport does not expire until November of this year. We leave in May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So I'm on the cusp. So your passport has to expire 6 months or more than like 6 months after. So if my passport expired in December, this is not valid. So again, your passport is valid 6 months after your trip. So mine and Kyle's actually expired in November. So do we risk it and maybe risk a day or two? Absolutely not. We do want to get back into our country, and we also do want to take our trip. So we went to get our passports done. And then, are you familiar with a passport card? Thank you, Alexandria Schaller, who introduced me to the passport card. But when you do get a passport, you actually have an option to get the passport card. So when you are traveling international, and even you guys, this is good for Mexico or whatever, when you get back to your international destination, you put your passport in your safe because you really don't want to bring it around with you if you don't have to, because just in case it gets stolen or something. So you can use a passport card. This is not going to get you on flights. This is not going to get you through TSA. But when you are there, or I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's not going to get you on a flight as your passport. But this might be good for TSA for identity. I don't know. But anyway, so your passport card is super important because you can use it in place of a passport when you are traveling. Again, you have to make sure that when you're traveling international, that it's okay. So for example, when we're going to Israel and we're traveling through Israel, inside of Israel, do I have to bring my passport, or is it okay that I bring my passport card only and keep this in the safe? So here's the deal. When you go to get your passport, I'm going to share with you my screen. Go direct, and this is great for, this is great for your tips on, or travel tips. But first of all, go to the U.S. passport site, and we're going to go ahead and put it on the Facebook page. This is going to answer all of your questions. And did you know that actually even TSA has a 24/7 site, that 24/7 contact that you can call them and ask them if you have any questions. So if you need a passport, this is the site to go to. And then, okay, so now we have our passports. Okay, now what? How do we now get on an airplane? Because when you are traveling international, you do have to take a COVID test. At least I know that for Israel. So find out from the airline, but most airlines with international want you to have a COVID test. So, this is what I wanted to tell you too. Back to that. Okay, sorry you guys. Did you know that before, if you had your passport book and you were going into Saudi Arabia with an Israel stamp, that you couldn't get in? They didn't like that. That was good for me to know. Not that I went to Saudi Arabia, but that was a good just kind of education tool. So it says now international travelers are now able to visit Saudi Arabia with an Israeli stamp in their passport as long as they have the following documents: a valid passport from a country whose citizens are permitted to enter Saudi Arabia, a valid Saudi Arabia visa or electronic visa. So one of the following. So yes, if I went into Israel and then Kyle and I decided to go to Saudi Arabia, we're not. But if we did, then we could do that. But I thought that was kind of a cool tip. Like I did not know that before they didn't allow that. All right, so then here you go. So this is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Everybody's pretty much heard of the CDC. So look at it 24, 48, 72 hours before you travel. This is super important, or a week before. Anything can change. Here's the good news. I love seeing this. As a result of a court order effective immediately as of April 18th, 2022, the order requiring masks on public transportation conveyances and transportation hubs is no longer in effect. My girlfriend was in Vegas this week and she was able to walk through the airport, not have to wear her mask. You guys, this is a choice. If people are wearing masks, they're wearing masks. If they're not, they're not. Here's the good news. You don't have to if you don't want to, okay? So I don't have to wear those masks or decide which one I'm going to want to wear. But make sure, again, log on to this page. This is going to be there for you in Facebook. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to go ahead and put it on Facebook, and then Michelle will let me know if anybody has a comment or a question. So what you need to know about vaccines. So here's the thing specific to Israel. So you're going to have some great tips here of what you need to know about the COVID-19 update in specific countries, and if you need to be vaccinated, not vaccinated, and what happens or partially vaccinated. What does partially vaccinated mean? Partially vaccinated means that you got the vaccination, but you didn't get the booster. So if you didn't get the booster, then you really may not be considered fully vaccinated. That is super important. So before you leave the United States, plan ahead. So here's what I do know before we get on the airplane with United Airlines, because some airlines, as far as I understand, and again, it's important to go to these sites, is what is the airline requiring? So if you are, so I do know this trip to Israel, you are considered fully vaccinated if you've had the vaccines plus the booster. If you've had the two vaccines, but it hasn't been done in the last 180 days, then you are not considered fully vaccinated. But if you had, let's say, those two vaccinations last year, but you had the booster 6 months ago, which was more than 180 days ago, you are considered fully vaccinated. So what's going to happen with, we have to prove, we have to get a COVID test prior to going, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a moment. But then we also have to show whether we've been fully vaccinated in those guidelines that I just said, or if you're not vaccinated. You do not have to be vaccinated to go on our Israel trip. But what happens is, if you are, and you get a card, if you're fully vaccinated, you're going to get, I think, a green card. If you're not vaccinated or not fully vaccinated, you won't. And if you are exposed to COVID during the travels or when we arrive, then you have to quarantine for 5 days, which is half of our trip. So those are super important rules to know. This is us going to Israel. You can find out what the rules are based on where you're going, logging into specific websites. And I'm trying to find right now. It was travel information website, and it just kind of timed out. Sorry, you guys, I just want to see this one timed out. Because you actually can put in where you're going and it'll tell you what is needed. All right, so that's your stuff for vaccinations. But what do you have to do prior to going on your trip? You do need a clearance that you do not have COVID. and you can do it up to 72 hours from leaving. So that's a very short time frame because you are not going to be guaranteed, possibly from your healthcare provider, that you will get your results before your plane takes off. And I have a couple examples. One was last summer. My girlfriend, they were scrambling to get to Hawaii. Hawaii seems to be the issue. And then my other girlfriend, Amy, who was going to Hawaii, she just went in January. She ended up having half of their people went and the other half couldn't go until the next day. Why? Because they went in time for the 72 hours, but they didn't get the results back. So that's a big deal, you guys. So if you think you're going to go in advance, 72 hours, show that you have a clear COVID test, make sure that you get those results prior to getting on the airplane. So here's what Kyle and I did, because we have to take a PCR test. That is required. So that's another thing. What kind of tests you have to take? We are required to get on this United Airlines flights to get to Tel Aviv, a PCR test. So we are guaranteed, and we're going to get it within like a 24-hour period. So we're going to take it within the 72-hour windows of our plane taking off. And we can go on Sunday and we fly out on Wednesday. We're not doing that. We're going on a Monday. We're guaranteed to get our results on a Tuesday. So what if our plane was delayed a day? I still have room for that 72-hour period, but we are guaranteed. But guess how much we have to pay? I can go through Kaiser and not pay anything, but I'm not guaranteed. And that was the problem with one of my friends last summer was Kaiser. Not to bash on Kaiser. I'm just being real. These are real specifics. I use Kaiser. There's no way I'm gambling that and being all stressed out about, oh my gosh, am I going to get this test or not? So we are paying $150 each to get a test. That's $300 extra now, just to show that we don't have COVID, because you can't always rely on who you use as a healthcare provider. So we don't want to take that risk. And for me, it's worth gambling, or not gambling. It's worth paying the $300 versus gambling. Okay. So now we have our clearance. We've got our passport and we're ready to go. There's one other thing too that I want to recommend. If you do not have your TSA pre-check, and now there's Cloud. So I do want to go to Cloud, but I'm not in Cloud. TSA pre-check has been amazing. It was $85, super easy. I went to Lincoln here in California, just filled out an application, TSA pre-check, and instead of waiting in the long lines, I just went up to TSA pre-check. And you still have to have your passport and everything, of course, but it makes the line so much easier. So if you have not done your TSA pre-check, if you take one flight a year or 2 flights a year, it's worth 3 years. It's good for 3 years. Definitely do it. And I need to make sure that mine does not expire here soon. It's going to make travel so much easier. So, all right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is, let's see, if you have any questions, please send them in. And I know this kind of part was boring, but these are the things that you need to know if you're traveling. And I'm talking on airplane. I'm not talking in your car. But you guys, if you're in your car, don't wear your mask. It's kind of silly, especially if you're by yourself. All right, so that was just my little tidbit there. So what you need to know about the vaccines, that's going to be there on Facebook. Before you leave the United States, make sure you plan ahead, and then also know what's coming when you get back, because we can't leave Israel until we're COVID tested as well. So then what happens? What if we got exposed to COVID? I don't know. Do we get 5 more days in Israel? But I guess we'd still be stuck in a hotel. And that wouldn't be any fun. But you also there's testing that we have to do, but the tour that we're going on is going to set all of that up. So really my concern right now is just getting there. And then these are things, of course, of not to travel if you have symptoms and stuff like that. Then what can I bring? That's what we're going to be talking about next week. And I'm going to come back to this in just a moment, but there's some great travel information. So this is United. Let's see, carry on baggage, because because we're going to talk about that next week. Check. Okay, so TSA, sorry you guys, because I'm going all over the map. Here's what's also important is how much luggage you take. So I know for me, I tend to way overpack. And so I'm actually trying, and we're going to talk about this next week on part 2, is I'm really, for a 10-day trip to Israel, my goal is to just take a carry-on bag and a backpack. So next week, what's going to be really cool is I'm going to show you different websites that actually have some cool luggage that you can really fit a lot into. And then hopefully by then I'll have the new backpack that I'm taking. It's already been ordered. And then some great travel clothes that I actually ordered that you can just roll up. And I'm going to introduce you to that travel website, and they have great outfits for women. And then I'll also see what Kyle's going to be traveling with and share what a men's travel website too. So next week's going to be really fun. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you joining part 1 of part 2, because that part is really important, because you won't even get to your destination unless these things are taken care of. So also, again, look at TSA security checkpoint. Go in, get your TSA pre-approval. That's going to make your life so much easier, I promise you. And then go into your TSA security checkpoint guidelines, because sometimes when you think like this is United's, if you want to bring in one carry-on and one travel, or like a backpack and a carry-on, you can't bring a separate laptop bag and you can't bring a separate purse. There are 2. All right, you guys, so I am going to finish up here. And, but here's the one thing I want you to think about and what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So remember, I'm going to try and travel international for 10 days with a carry-on. So what does that mean? Because if I'm putting stuff on the airplane, I can bring in my big hairspray. I can bring everything that I want, from my deodorant to my razor. Different rules apply when you're on the airplane. Can't bring scissors, can't bring, I don't even know if you can bring tweezers. I don't know. So, but I'm going to go through that. But guess what? Do you see the size of this bag? This is part of the 3-1-1 rule when you bring on a carry-on. 3 ounces, 3-1-1. No, yeah, there's 3 ounces, but you can bring you can bring more than one bottle, but in a Ziploc. So what's the other one? Because it can only be 3 ounces, but they all have to fit in here. Okay, you guys, this is like the size of my blushes or my eyeshadows. So there's no way. So it's going to be very interesting next week as to what happens and what I come up with. And, or the other option is, so women out there, the other option is you buy all that stuff when you pass security. So we fly out of San Francisco. I don't have to worry about toiletries if I don't bring any going through security point. But once I get through security point, I can just go and get my little toiletries. Still, it's going to be a challenge no matter what. So we're going to take a look at what that challenge is for next week and see how I do. And if you guys want to share any of your travel tips, please do so here on Facebook. And I appreciate you joining and looking at today's rules and regulations during our travel, which was so different a couple of years ago. And this was today's travel hints for Thursday, April 28th. Thank you so much for joining Get Real with Jill. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you can actually see past videos of very educational things, from appraisers to coaching and home inspections and trust. If you have anybody that you would like me to have on the show, something educational for you viewers, this is the whole point of me doing this. It's for you. And so feel free to send in any suggestions. And then just so you know, I have 3 listings coming up. Okay, did that get your attention? Because what's going on with the real estate market? I really am a realtor. So I actually have 3 coming up. One is later on tonight, and that is in the Riversgate community in Sacramento. That's an adorable 3-2 original owners, so it's meticulously taken care of, and that is going on the market tonight for $558,800. Riversgate community, close to everything. Next week, I have a great 4-3 in the Diamond Park Lane address of right before Crocker Ranch, and it's over by the new Nugget. It's by Top Golf, so it's on the north side of Wood Creek. And then I have another one coming up, Equinox Loop in Lincoln. So lots going on, you guys. Yes, because of the season, there are listings coming up. That doesn't mean we're tanking. The bottom is not dropping below us. Trust me. I just sold a house in my neighborhood for $120,000 over asking. Yes, Sunset Heights had their first over $1 million home sold. That is crazy, and I'm super excited for our neighborhood. So if you're thinking of buying or selling or just have some questions, please don't hesitate to call me, 916-765-5488. And if you want some updates on the listings I have coming up or want to join my mailing list so that you can see before, I actually have a client that's going to do a sneak peek on my Diamond Park Lane tomorrow. So call me. Love to help you. And you guys have a great day. And remember, be kind to somebody because you never know what somebody could be going through. All right. Okay. All right, you guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.